Yeah, like we said after the game, I think the first thing is we don't need any pats on the back when we lose football games. We don't show up to football games to lose, and obviously, that's not a score that we enjoy seeing at the end of the game. So we don't want to get any pats on the back after any situation like that. But at the same time, I hope that everybody can take a realistic, transparent approach to what those games really are, and what they really mean to programs like ours and to programs like Washington. They obviously are extremely talented. Coach Fish and his staff do a tremendous job. And, in this day and age of college football with, the NIL and the revenue sharing and things that we're really not involved in yet with our program, there can be some big discrepancies on the field, and that was pretty clear early on the other night. We made a decision as a staff to that if we felt like we weren't in a position to win the football game at halftime, that we were going to pull most of our starters, which is what we did, just for the longevity and health of our team. And Washington left their starters in, which they have full, purview to do, and they got to work on things too. And they're trying to make a college football playoff, and scores like that are going to help them. So, but for us, it was about at that point getting guys in the game and getting them a chance to play football against a big-time opponent, and playing at a speed like that is something that can help all the players, and then getting our starters out of the game so they can stay healthy for what's going to be a really long season, a long run. We've had a really difficult 3 weeks here travel-wise. 3 games kicking off around 8 o'clock and getting home at 3, 4 a.m. every week, and traveling across the country and lightning delays, and just been a tough 3 weeks. I think I want to thank our athletic department, our support staff. Everyone's done a tremendous job trying to make those trips as seamless as possible, and they have been. But I think our guys are tired. They're a little worn out. It's been a tough 3 weeks. Staff's tired, and so the bye week comes at a perfect time. Sets us up for, after 3 straight road games, we get a chance to play at home 2 weeks in a row, and really have 5 of our next 9 at home. And now we can hopefully, improve on a lot of the areas we need to improve. Take it 1 week at a time, and hopefully put ourselves in a position where we can, keep playing football in December and January. So, again, hats off to Washington. They're a great team. There's definitely things that we could have done better and controlled better on our end. But, they're a great football team, and I'm proud that our program in the football department, stewards our process of collecting those funds so that all of our sports, have a chance to eat off of that. And I know that's an important part of collegiate sports, especially at our level. And every year I want to play a Power 4 team every year. I want our guys to have a chance to play against teams like that, and also because we can get the type of financial support from games like that can help our programs. So just because this one didn't go the way we want doesn't mean in the future we can't perform better, and even make a run at one of those games every now and then and make it closer. But other than that, excited for the bye week and excited to get these guys ready to go for some home games. It'll be great to be back in Shredville, back on Jim Soker Field. Hopefully we can get a great turnout and give these guys something to perform in front of. Yeah, I do. I think, I would say this. I think the gap between Power 4 and everybody is widening. I want to be really clear, say the same thing in recruiting. There is no gap between Big Sky and Group of 5. Okay. Because those teams don't have great financial support to go against Washington's either, right? And this is no knock on the Mountain West teams, but we recruit against those teams every year, and we beat them in recruiting pretty consistently because I think we have the same type of financial support that those programs have. We have just as good, if not better, facilities, and you can see with how our teams perform against Mountain West opponents, they beat them on the field. So, or they play them close, right? They're always close games. So, what I tell recruits is, to me, there is 2 levels of college football now. There is Power 4, and even within the Power 4, there's probably 20 to 30 teams, and then there's kind of everybody else, and because all those players that are top-level guys are going to get taken by those 20 to 30 teams, and they have the financial revenue sharing to do that, and then the rest of us have to play old-school college football and recruit based on our culture, our environment, our facilities, how we take care of the players, how we develop the players, And I think we do that as well as anybody. So I do think there's a big gap between Power 4 and, everybody else. And that's okay. That's just the way college football is at this point. But every now and then, right, whether it's North Dakota against Kansas State or, us against Cal last year, you get the right situation. You're playing really well. Maybe they're having an off day. It can be a different score. But for the most part, if they're playing at their best with what the resources they have and the type of financial support they have to create the rosters they have, it's gonna look a lot different. I think there's always going to be tough starts, especially in the FCS. I think there's some things that work against us at Davis, not to make excuses, but, we're a quarter system, and so we don't have great turnout to our home games before school starts. And I don't want to have, games in late August or early September at home if we don't have to, because I want our guys to play in front of good crowds. And so I think that's one thing that we try to avoid, and so that ends up meaning we're going to have a lot of road games early in the year. And then I think, obviously, like we said before, we don't have the type of financial situation yet at Davis. We're working to get it better. We're working really hard, but Montana can play 8 games at home and not play a Power 4 team sometimes, right? Because they make enough money at their home games where they don't need to, and we're not at the stage where we can do that. And so we need to have those money games, and we need to play games on the road early in the season. So you'll see that, pretty often with the beginning of our schedules, and that's just the situation we're at. So it's nothing uncommon. I think the one thing uncommon this year was just the travel to the south, and then the travel to Utah back to back, and getting home at late kickoffs. That was a bummer. I hope that we can avoid the late kickoffs in the future, but that is what it is. Yeah, I think just our overall consistency. We've shown all 3 phases to have some great spurts of really, really great football, but we've lacked consistency and focus, and it's really been self-inflicted wounds, pre-snap errors, pre-snap communication that has hurt us in all 3 phases. The exciting thing is those are all fixable things. Like, those are all fixable elements that you can really work on as a football team. Excited to have 2 weeks to work on those things to get them fixed. I think if we can do a better job staying consistent, playing and play out, 11 guys doing their job, I think we do have the depth and the talent to make a run at this thing. But if we don't, any team can get us, because if you self-inflict yourself in a football game with the teams we're about to play, we could run into trouble anywhere. So I think it's important for our guys to look at that, our staff to look at that. How can we get that fixed, keep a neutral mindset, really use the next 2 weeks, and hopefully play really well at home. Like I said, I think even to couple that, you watched, I saw the score of the Oregon-Oklahoma State game, right? And the pre-game discussions about that situation. And I agree with everything Coach Lanning said. They should be proud that they have the type of support and financial stability that they can do things that other teams can't do. Who wouldn't want that, right? And so there are of the Power 4 teams, I don't know the exact number, I imagine there's like 50, 60 teams. I would say even within those 50, 60, there's a 20, 30 that have separated from those teams. And that's just the world we live in right now. If you want to win at that level, you're going to have support from boosters and revenue share and all those things to create the rosters that these teams can create. And I think it makes, those teams are great, but I also don't want it to feel like sour grapes. I love FCS football. I love the Big Sky. Love the opponents we play. I would not hesitate to play any Mountain West team right now, and I would feel like we could beat them. I would feel like it's an even game on the field, and I think that was proven with Northern Colorado against Colorado State, or Sac State against Nevada, or the list goes on and on over the years, right? Our ability to beat San Jose State multiple times. We played Tulsa a few years ago and beat them. So I think that a lot of those teams have fallen down because of the transfer portal NIL. They can't maintain the rosters they used to. And so a lot of those teams are the same. They look the same. They recruit the same players. And then the elite great players, whether they start at under the Power 4 or whether they go straight to it, they're going to get financial compensation, and those rosters are going to look a lot different. No, I think we, fingers crossed. I thought our staff did a great job. I'm glad we talked about it before we even got to the game. We got a lot of guys out of the game before before it got in a place where we put them at risk. I know they were bummed out. They wanted to keep competing. But we got to do what's right. We got to get our guys ready for a 9-game haul here to try to make the playoffs. And Cofield's going to be fine. Was worried it was a shoulder, ended up being a bicep thing, but he's fine. Jaden was more of got hit in the quad, so kind of got a dead leg there, but he should be good to go. Most of the guys had dings here and there that they could have played through, but we wanted to get them out and make sure they were ready to go. Bye week coming up and all that, so I'm feeling really positive about where we're at as a team. Getting David Main back, hopefully should be getting cleared here in the next week or two. We're keeping our fingers crossed. That'll add more depth to the offensive line. Hoping to get PJ back at receiver in the next 3 to 4 weeks from his injury, and hopefully stay healthy and keep it rolling. Yeah, not surprised. I mean, I think it's super deep. You look at even a team like Idaho State that's been on the short end a couple of times. Boy, they played, again, another example. They played UNLV, super tough, almost got them, right? They play a Southern Utah team that I have a lot of respect for on the road. Then they play another FBS team, played them tough this week, right? So I think that's a good team. I think you look at Montana's obviously going to be great. I mean, Montana State's 0-2, but they played Oregon, and then they played South Dakota State, and they went to overtime with South Dakota State. So they're going to be tough. Northern Arizona took Arizona State to the brink, played them really tough, and then won against Utah Tech in a close game. We know how good Utah Tech is. We saw it up and close. So I think even the Montanas, which you're expecting, and the Idahos, which you're expecting, but I think even teams like NAU, Idaho State, Eastern on the road, had a tough game against Incarnate Word. You know how good of a program Incarnate Word is. Northern Colorado plays Colorado State to the brink. So I think there's a lot of depth as usual, a lot of great coaching. There's not going to be any easy games for us going forward, and we know the schedule's difficult, and none more difficult than our next game in a couple weeks here at home. So love the Big Sky. I've always said I think it's the deepest conference at our level, and again, I think it can compete with all the Group of Five conferences too. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's really hard to schedule games on the West Coast. There's just not a lot of FCS football on the West Coast, so as we found out this year, if you want to find a game, sometimes you got to fly to the East Coast to play the game, and so that allows us to have one less non-conference that we have to schedule in a 12-game season. It made sense to have 8 when there was 11. Now that there's 12, I think it makes sense to have 9. I think it just helps a lot of the teams that don't have the type of financial support that the Montanas have, where it's hard for us to get home games, and so now it lets us play. If we are traveling, we're traveling on the West Coast to local teams that we can play, and then now you're non-conference for a school like us. You can play your one Power 4 game to help your program financially. You can play hopefully a home and home like we scheduled with North Dakota State, where you're playing a really good opponent, and then hopefully another like-minded FCS team, whether it's home or away. And that's a lot easier than trying to find one Power 4 game and 3 FCS games. That's really difficult for us every year, because not a lot of teams want to play us, and nobody wants to come play us. They're going to be fine if we want to pay to fly out there, but I think it just helps scheduling for everybody. Man, I hope you can talk to Rocco and Flush and give them that same sentiment. Let's make sure we got 7 home games when we got the 5. That'd be outstanding. But to get that done, Bob, we got to do a great job as a team to make a product that people want to come watch. And I think that would be what our athletic department would say is, hey, if we keep filling the stadium in and getting people to show up, then it makes sense financially to have 7 home games. And so hopefully we can keep doing that and keep growing this product and keep growing this following locally to make the revenue that we create more consistent, so that it makes sense to have more home games. Yeah, I think it's been pretty consistent the first 3 games, and he has some great bright spots, and then he has some young things that he does. I know he missed a couple throws. Either he didn't see the guy open, or the throw he had to Sam that he's got him on a touchdown and just kind of underthrew him, and but I thought he made some great throws too that guys didn't come down with. What I was most impressed by him was we had to manage a lot of stuff at the line of scrimmage. This defense was extremely exotic, and he had to do a lot of checks at the line of scrimmage, a lot of things in the huddle, the crowd noise, and I thought he did a great job of handling that. I was doing a lot of stuff through the helmet with him, and I thought he managed that swimmingly for a young guy. So I was really impressed by that. He took some shots and was dinged up a little bit and wanted to fight through it, and So he showed some toughness, great leadership, made some plays. So I was really proud of him. Yeah, I think, you're playing a team like Washington. They're playing predominantly man coverage. And when you're playing a predominantly man coverage team, you're going to find your guy that can win the most against man. And for us, that's Sam. So if teams are going to play him one-on-one, we're going to throw him the ball. And I think our tight ends have underperformed at this point. They know that. We've had some discussions. I think all three of those guys can play better. I thought they had their best game this week against Washington, which was great to see. All three of them had some really great moments. Boy, I thought Mitch played a great game, had some great plays. Thought Winston had some good plays, and Ian as well. So, we need those guys to play better. I know they're motivated to do so. And like I've said, I think the offense for us, we never really go into the game saying this guy has to touch it 15 times. We're going to try to put our main guys into the number one parts of the progressions if we can, so to speak. But the ball will find you. And last year, from week to week, right? Some weeks, Sac State game, Sam caught 5 balls in the first half for like 100 yards, and then they took him out, and then Trent caught a bunch of balls, and CJ caught a bunch of balls. And so I think it just run the right route, be where you're supposed to be, expect the football, and hopefully we can train the quarterback to throw it to the open guy. Yeah, I think Rex is the best defensive football player at the FCS level right now. And that's just not me. That's the NFL scout saying the same thing. But I will always think of Rex in regards to his loyalty to UC Davis football and his loyalty to the Blue Force and to Aggie Pride. We had a special moment for Rex this morning. Former players Bo Eason and J.J. Barcy, 2 great former safeties, All-Americans, Hall of Famers, had a special video they planned for Rex. And then we surprised him and brought Coach Bronson back, and Coach Bronson had written up a speech for Rex, and not only Rex, but honoring the top 10 guys on the tackle list, guys like Mike Morales and Dozie Amajoy, Jordan Glass, Byron Grundle, obviously Chris Spraker, who goes into the Hall of Fame this year. I know Sprake's going to have something special for Rex as well. All those guys mean a lot to UC Davis football. That record has stood for almost 30 years now, I think, and Rex should be at the top of that list, in my opinion. I've seen a lot of those guys play, and Rex deserves to be at the top of that list, and his number deserves to be next to Bo Eason's. He'll be a Hall of Famer. He'll be one of the greatest to ever wear the uniform, and I know he came back for that record, but he also came back for other reasons, and I'm hoping that I can work really hard to achieve that for him. I know our staff talked about a lot of our guys are motivated every day to stay in late hours and working hard for Rex. I felt the same way about Lan a year ago. These guys chose to come back here, turn down hundreds of thousands of dollars for UC Davis, and they deserve our full effort, both as a staff, teammates, alumni, fans, students should all support guys like Rex, for that. So I'm proud of him, and hopefully we can get that number to a place where no one can break it. I do. I think, and I think Keelan Doss staying had an impact on Lan. I think, and that's not to knock the 9, 10 guys that have left the last couple of years. I think everyone's situation's different, financially, and, they have different goals, different connections. Watching Teddy Buchanan play last night, that was special. That was special for all of us to see. We developed Teddy. We trained Teddy, and we helped Teddy get to where he is now. And I know he, thinks of UC Davis with a lot of pride. And I don't knock him for living out his dream of playing for Cal, which was a dream of his. So I think everyone has different goals and aspirations. I think guys like Lan and Rex and Keelan Doss, they want to be in the Hall of Fame. They want their number up there with Ken O'Brien. They want to win a championship at Davis. And they just have a different connection to it. And that's awesome. I think that's wonderful. And I think you'll see more guys do that, and you'll see guys leave. And both situations I'm proud of, because either way we've developed that in them, and I'm good either way. But I think that makes Rex and Lan stand out more than anybody else in this day and age. Yeah, we always, we want to create a standard here that we don't lose off of bye weeks. We want to make sure that we do a great job as a staff and as a team of using this as an advantage. So we're going to burn the midnight oil the next 3 days. We're going to game plan like we're playing this Saturday, and we're going to treat this Monday the same. I do want to make a statement how thankful I am that our grad school of management, we have multiple players obviously in the grad school of management, and there's a mandatory orientation that they have to do, and the grad school of management specifically moved that orientation so our guys could have it this week during our bye week instead of next week during the actual week. And that means so much to us as a program. I know they're super thankful for it. I want to make sure I get that out there, that that type of back and forth and partnership between the academics and the school and our program, that means a lot, going as far as when we get to finals week in the playoffs. And if we can have that type of dialogue, that's great. And so we're going to have to change our practice times this week. We're going to actually go early in the morning so that all our guys can be at practice, so that our dozen or so guys can get to their orientation and still get their practices in. But other than that, normal Tuesday, normal Wednesday, normal Monday, and then we're going to give our guys and give our staff a chance to recruit and give our guys some days off. We'll come back on Sunday and basically have a second go at the game plan and make sure we try to lock it in.